Penguin Random House Audio presents Unlearning Shame, How We Can Reject Self-Blame Culture and Reclaim Our Power. This is the author, Devon, PhD. Note to listeners, this program includes a downloadable PDF which contains exercises, tools, and prompts from the book. For Heather, thank you for demanding to know the real me when I was still dedicated to pretending to be fine. Your vulnerability and loving friendship taught me to tear down the barricades that closed me off from the world, and exchanging letters with you made me a writer. Introduction: My shame-based personality. Every single time something good happens to me, or I ask for something I need, I'm immediately consumed with panic and shame. The weekend after I completed my PhD in 2014, I traveled to Austin, Texas with my boyfriend at the time, Nick. It was supposed to be a celebration, full of drinking, sightseeing, and music. Nick had even gotten us a reservation at a fancy restaurant with a prix-fixe menu that I knew he couldn't normally afford. But I didn't enjoy a single second. Whenever he proudly told someone about me being a doctor, I tried to minimize the accomplishment. I did all that I could to direct attention away from me and end every conversation about my achievement. At dinner, I cried all the way through every course, horrified at the three-figure price tag, and choking down drinks, hoping that would soothe me. Later, when I was drunk and still consumed with guilt, I roamed the city's downtown, sobbing violently while Nick followed me, completely stunned. I was unable to explain myself, or even speak. All I wanted was to curl up somewhere and die. What happened? What was wrong with me? Why wasn't I proud of what I just achieved? I didn't feel I deserved any of the good things that had happened to me. I'd wanted a PhD since I was a teenager. I'd believed success in academia would promise me safety and social acceptance. I'd spent most of my graduate school years toiling in isolation, longing to find a place in the world where I'd be loved and accepted, yet doubting I'd ever get it. Despite completing my degree, securing a job, and finding a supportive relationship that had lasted many years, I found that deep down, I was still me. Awkward, unhappy me, still miserable and unable to imagine a comfortable place for myself in the world. I'd chased after achievements and approval all of my life, believing it would grant me self-love. Now that all my external goals had been met, I felt even more empty. I still hated myself. In fact, now that I lacked some promising, life-changing goal to aspire to, existence felt even more meaningless. I could not envision a long-term career for myself or imagine what growing old with Nick might look like. The future before me was a long, blank expanse. It felt like nothing I did ever mattered, and never could, because none of it would ever help me stop being me. This consuming self-hatred and hopelessness emerged again 2 years later, as I finally admitted to myself that I was transgender. When I confessed my identity to a trans woman friend, Sarah, I initially felt bathed in warm, happy self-acceptance. I felt excited to move forward, and could at last imagine who I wanted to be. But those positive emotions disappeared the second I contemplated what would happen next. I would have to start asking people to use a new name and new pronouns. When they got it wrong, I'd have to commit the unforgivable social sin of making things awkward by standing up for myself. I wanted to change my hair and my entire wardrobe, maybe pursue surgery, but it all struck me as an unforgivable extravagance. On masculinizing hormones, which I desperately longed to take, my body would get hairier, bulkier, acne-ridden, and confusing to others. The professional persona I'd cultivated over the years would fall apart, and the terrible me-ness of myself would unquestionably stand out. Worst of all, there was no way my straight male partner would continue to be interested in me if I were a guy. I would no longer be the intelligent yet chill, pretty girlfriend that partners' families always found easy to like. My identity would become an uncomfortable distraction. My changing body would stand out even to complete strangers. Even my loved ones might be embarrassed to be seen around me. The respectable life I'd built would crumble apart. I felt like I'd killed the person my boyfriend and family loved, all because I had some sick delusion about who I was. I hated myself for needing something so strange and inconvenient as a gender transition. so I went about meeting my needs as secretively as possible. I went to the courthouse and changed my name and gender marker without telling a single soul for months. I knew that I had to force myself to make the change before I sought approval from anyone else, or it would never happen. I began taking testosterone in private, literally ducking into the closet of the bedroom Nick and I shared each morning to slather my body with androgel. On Wednesday evenings, I slunk off to a genderqueer support group at the local LGBT center, shuddering every time I entered, fearing someone I knew would see me. When I finally tried to come out to my partner and family, I could not stop hedging, apologizing, or crying. I had to text them the words. I couldn't even say them out loud. I longed to be rid of the weird, perverted desires that were making me do these things. A few years into my transition, I even tried detransitioning for a while, in hopes that I could become the cute, easy-to-be-around straight girl people used to think I was. It was the emotional low point of the pandemic, and I was locked away from all my trans friends and any sense of community I'd been able to build. All that was left was Nick, my partner of nearly 10 years, who'd become increasingly cold and aloof the more my transition had progressed. I hoped that by making my body more feminine again, Nick might love me. I thought my conservative mother might stop treating me with wariness. I told myself that all my problems were my fault and that I had to give up trying to be something I was not. But it didn't work, because no matter how powerfully I felt it, my shame was a liar. My self-loathing and secrecy only locked my potential for growth and happiness away. And as much as it felt like my suffering as a transgender person was caused by my actions, it was all rooted in the work of powerful systems such as cissexism, capitalism, and heteronormativity that I was a victim of, but which I felt powerless to resist. I have always believed that my desires and feelings are too much, and that I have to make up for who I am by being as diligent, virtuous, and unobtrusive as possible. Whenever I succeed at something or receive positive attention, I can't help but think of all the people I know and love who deserve it more than I do. So many of my friends suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, poverty, racism, homophobia, sexism, and so much more. All around me, I see social problems I'm not doing enough to help solve. And no matter how much I strive to take care of others and put good things out into the world, or to make myself into a better or more lovable person, I feel like I'm forever throwing meager payments toward a debt that only continues to compound. There are a lot of reasons why I feel this way. As a closeted queer child in the 1990s, I witnessed how AIDS patients were branded as disgusting and debauched and blamed for their illness. In the Drug Abuse Resistance Education, or DARE program, I learned that addicts and incarcerated people deserved their fates because they didn't have the willpower to just say no. Public service announcements and school books taught me that environmental destruction had been caused by people choosing to litter and waste water. When gay marriage bans swept through the country during my teen years, and my own high school tried to prevent me from protesting, I learned I could not count on any public institutions to protect me. When my conservative family seemed unmoved by my concern for queer rights, I was crestfallen. I knew that I couldn't count on anyone. I would always have to look after myself. Over and over again, I had been taught that the only way to lead a worthwhile and meaningful life was through tons of willpower, perfection, and personal responsibility. Of course, no amount of effort or virtuousness was going to be enough to make me feel worthy. The ledger would never add up in my favor because personal responsibility couldn't undo destructive systems. Like so many other people, I suffer from systemic shame, the powerful self-loathing belief that says I am to blame for the circumstances I'm living in, and that the only way my problems can be overcome is through individual goodness and grit. Shame itself is a perfectly normal, if highly unpleasant emotion. Philosophers seem to have always been interested in analyzing how it works, and we can find detailed descriptions of how shame feels and the postures and poses that ashamed people take across a wide array of cultures and points in history. At its most simple, shame is the feeling that not only have we done something wrong, but that we are bad, and that some core part of us is.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?